In this video, we're going to go over the steps for solving a word problem. The reason that having steps for a word problem is important is so that we can understand the problem, understand what the problem's asking us, and have an organized way of solving the word problem. Alright, so let's take a look at this word problem, and we're going to go through the steps as we do this problem. So the problem says, suppose a person invests a total of $10,000 into two accounts. One account earns 5% interest annually, and the other earns 6% annually. If the total interest earned from both accounts in a year is $560, how much is invested in each account? Alright, so the first step is read the problem carefully, and in this step you can write or list the known information that you have. And depending on the type of problem, I like to either write it in a chart, or you can make a list, or you can write the known information on a picture, any way that helps you organize the information. And this one, like I said, the best way to do this is into a chart. Alright, so the first information I have here is the percentage rates of the two accounts. So I'm going to make my chart here, and I have the two rates. I have a 5% rate, and we have a 6% interest rate. Those are the first two things I know. And we also should know this, that the 5% and 6% as a decimal would be 0.05% or 0.05 and 0.06. So there's my interest rate. The other things I have is I have my total amount invested, which is $10,000. I'm going to save this bottom column here for the total. So I had $10,000 total to invest, and the total amount earned from both accounts is $560. So right there, that is all of the information that I know. Now, when you're reading the problem carefully, another important thing is to understand what is being asked. So in this case, we are asked to find how much was invested into each account. Well, we know the total amount invested into each account, but we need to figure out how much was invested into each individually. So that leads us to our next step. The second step in solving a word problem would be to write the expressions for the unknown using X. So we are trying to find how much was invested into each rate. So since we have 10,000 total, and we're trying to figure out how much was invested into each rate, these two principles, the 5% and the 6%'s principal value, should be what is the unknown. So I like to say X. I like to put an X amount of principal into my larger percentage rate. And then we need to figure out how much was invested in the 5% rate. If you have $10,000 total dollars and you take X amount out of that $10,000 to go into the 6% rate, then how much would go into the 5% rate? It would be your $10,000 and you took X amount out for the 6% rate. So those are the two amounts that go into the principal for each rate. Now, that is just really assigning our variable. We can also write the expressions using the information we know. We know that we earned $560 from the interest. So that means that we are going to compare the interest rates, or the interest earned, by using the interest rate formula. And it is just a simple interest, so the simple interest formula is the interest earned is equal to the principal times the rate times the time in years. But since this is annually, we don't need to worry about the time. So we just have the interest equals the principal times the rate. Now the principal for each of these is what we just found. So the expression that we're going to find for each of these interest rates is their rate times its principal. So the first one is 0.05 times 10,000 minus x, and this is 0.06 times x. And each of those are the interest earned annually. The third step in solving a word problem would be to set up an equation. And when we're setting up equation, we are writing the equation out using all of the expressions and how they relate together. So in this case, we want to look at this column. We now have an expression relating the amount earned for the 5% account and the amount earned for the 6% account. And we know that we have 0.05 times 10,000 minus x is my amount earned for the 5% rate. And then if we add the amount earned for the 6% account, it's 0.06x. These two interest earned from both of these accounts equals the total annual interest earned. So that would be the total equation set up that relates all of the information in the problem that we have. The fourth step in solving a word problem would be to solve the equation. So we're just going to solve the equation that we set up in step 3. All right, so we're going to distribute that through, and we have 0.05 times 10,000 would be 500 minus 0.05x plus 0.06x equals 500, or 560, sorry. Okay, and then we'll combine like terms, so let's subtract the 500 over, and let's combine these two together. 0.06 minus 0.05 is 0.01x equals 60. So if I divide both sides by 0.01, or if you're really clever, you could just multiply both sides by 100. We get x equals 600, or 6,000, sorry. So in our account that represented the x, we have $6,000. Now, the last step will help us write out our answers. So let's take a look. Alright, so in the last step, we solved our equation and we got x was $6,000. But that doesn't answer our question. If you remember back to the original problem, that question they were asking us was, how much was invested in each rate? So if you remember, we had the 5%. The principal balance for 5% was 10,000 minus x, and the principal balance for 6% was x. So that means the amount invested at the 6% is the x that we found. So at 6%, we invested $6,000. Then we need to figure out how much was left to be invested at the 5%. So we have 10,000 minus 6,000, which would be $4,000. Okay, now I'm just going to go and double check and make sure those two answers make sense. If I have $6,000 plus $4,000, it equals $10,000, so that's good. And then you can go and multiply each rate by each principal balance and see if that adds to 560. So once we do that, once we answer the question and check to make sure our answers make sense, then we have our final solution solved for.